Dr. Amanda Walker hadn't left the quantum monitoring station in 36 hours. The facility, buried deep in the Colorado Rockies, hummed with the sound of cooling fans and sophisticated equipment. At 3:17 a.m., she poured her fourth cup of coffee, black and bitter, watching the quantum interference patterns that monitored deep space. Another exciting night watching absolutely nothing happen. Dr. Marcus Chen asked from his workstation, his voice heavy with sarcasm. Amanda was about to agree when something caught her eye. The quantum interference pattern on monitor 3 showed an impossible reading. "Marcus," she called out, "check your redundancy. I'm seeing a phase variance that can't be right." Marcus typed rapidly, his screen mirroring her data. "That's strange. Running diagnostics now." The pattern spread across their screens like a cancer, beautiful and terrifying. Amanda's hands shook as she pulled up historical data. Nothing like this had ever been recorded. The quantum fabric of space itself was showing microtears, spreading outward from the galactic core like cracks in thin ice. "Get Director Reynolds," Amanda ordered, already reaching for the secure phone. "This isn't an equipment malfunction." Within an hour, the observation room filled with bleary-eyed scientists and military personnel. Director Reynolds, a former NASA administrator with silver hair and perpetually furrowed brows, stood behind Amanda as she presented the data. "The readings suggest something is stressing the quantum structure of space-time," she explained, pointing to the spreading pattern. "These energy signatures match theoretical models of what happens when too much energy is extracted from vacuum states. But the scale, it's astronomical. Could it be natural?" Colonel Sarah Matthews asked, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. Amanda shook her head. "The pattern is too regular, too systematic. This is artificial. And based on the spread, I'd say it's been happening for decades, maybe centuries. We're just now seeing it because it's reached a critical threshold." "The Galactic Empire," Marcus said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Their energy extraction systems. We've detected their power signatures before, but we never knew the scale. They must be harvesting vacuum energy across thousands of systems." Director Reynolds ran a hand through his hair. "And you're saying this is dangerous?" Amanda pulled up a simulation she'd been running. "Watch what happens when I extrapolate the current rate of deterioration." The model showed the microtears spreading, joining, creating larger rifts in space-time. Within months, maybe weeks, we'll see the first macro-level failures. Within a year, she let the simulation play out, showing entire sectors of space becoming unstable. "Jesus Christ," Colonel Matthews whispered. "We have to warn them," Amanda said, standing. "The Empire needs to shut down their energy extraction network before we can warn anyone." Director Reynolds interrupted. "We need absolute proof. The Empire considers Earth a primitive backwater. They'll dismiss this unless our evidence is undeniable." "Then let's get it," Amanda said, determination hardening her voice. "Colonel, we'll need access to every deep space monitoring station on and off Earth. Marcus, start writing algorithms to track the tear patterns. I want predictive models showing exactly where and when these rifts will appear." "I'll contact the UN Security Council," Director Reynolds said, already reaching for his phone. "And Amanda, don't leave the facility. Once word of this gets out, every scientist on Earth will want to verify your findings." As the room erupted into activity, Amanda stared at the spreading quantum tears on her screen. Humanity had tried to contact the Empire before, always to be dismissed as primitive curiosities. But this time was different. This time, they couldn't afford to be ignored. She took another sip of her now-cold coffee and began typing. They had work to do, and somewhere out in space, a clock was ticking down to catastrophe. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Dr. Amanda Walker stood at the podium, acutely aware of the Empire's diplomatic aide lounging in the front row. The alien, who had introduced himself as Junior Diplomatic Liaisons Extra, looked almost human except for his silvery skin and the casual arrogance in his phosphorescent eyes. Major Tom Harrison, recently assigned as Earth's military liaison, watched from the side, his jaw clenched. The Empire had sent their most junior diplomat, a calculated insult that made his combat-trained muscles tense. As you can see from these readings, Amanda continued, projecting a hologram of the quantum tear patterns, the space-time disruptions are expanding exponentially. We've confirmed similar readings from 17 different monitoring stations across Earth and our lunar bases. Zextra yawned, not bothering to cover his mouth. Fascinating, he drawled, his universal translator giving his voice an artificial smoothness. Truly remarkable that primitives who haven't even colonized their own solar system believe they can lecture the Empire about space-time mechanics. With respect, Amanda said, gritting her teeth, the math doesn't lie. Your energy extraction networks are creating cascading failures in the quantum fabric of space itself. We've run over 10,000 simulations, and every single one ends in catastrophic. Dr. Walker, Zextra interrupted, standing with fluid grace, let me explain something in terms your species might understand. Imagine a beetle attempting to explain flight dynamics to an aerospace engineer. That's what this feels like to me. He smiled, showing teeth that gleamed like polished chrome. Major Harrison stepped forward. Maybe the beetle noticed the airplane's wing is about to fall off. The chamber fell silent. Zextra's smile vanished. Careful, human. Your species' protected status is a privilege that can be revoked. Amanda quickly projected another hologram, this one showing the predicted path of destruction. Within 3 months, the Tiers will reach the Centauri trading hub. Within 6, they'll threaten the Empire's core worlds. We're not trying to challenge your authority. We're trying to prevent a disaster that will affect everyone. Enough. Zextra's voice cracked like a whip. The Empire has harvested vacuum energy for 10,000 years. Our scientists, who have forgotten more than your species will ever know, monitor every aspect of our operations. These Tiers you claim to see are likely sensor malfunctions from your primitive equipment. He turned to address the UN Council directly. However, since you seem so concerned, I will personally ensure your data is reviewed by a third-tier Imperial science team. In a few decades, he smiled again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. Meeting adjourned. As the chamber emptied, Harrison approached Amanda. Well, that went exactly as expected. They're going to get people killed, Amanda said, gathering her data crystals with shaking hands. Billions of people, and they won't even look at the evidence. They'll look, Harrison said quietly, when it's too late. He glanced around to ensure they were alone. Director Reynolds authorized Plan B. We're mobilizing everything we've got. Stealth ships, quantum sensors, defensive systems. If the Empire won't listen to polite warnings, we'll have to make them listen. Amanda finished. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her mind already racing through calculations. I need access to your tactical satellites. If we can correlate their positions with the tear patterns, already arranged. There's a secure lab at Cheyenne Mountain waiting for you. Harrison's expression hardened. But doctor, be careful what you say and where you say it. The Empire might think we're primitive, but they're probably watching us now. Amanda nodded, feeling the weight of uncounted lives settling on her shoulders. They had tried diplomacy, tried to play by the Empire's rules. Now it was time for Plan B. As they left the chamber, neither noticed the small drone that detached itself from the ceiling and followed them, its Imperial circuitry humming quietly as it recorded every word. Captain Jessica Brooks sat in the command chair of the ETS Shadow, a ship deliberately designed to look like a struggling merchant vessel. In reality, it was humanity's most advanced stealth craft, built with one purpose: to slip past Imperial defenses. Status report, she vocalized, the ship's neural interface picking up her thoughts. Imperial patrol passing at Mark 340. Lieutenant Mike Foster reply from Tactical. Their scan patterns suggest standard sweep protocols. Jessica allowed herself a small smile. The Shadow's quantum mimetic hull was working perfectly, making them appear as nothing more than background radiation to Imperial sensors. Her years as a Navy SEAL had taught her that sometimes the best hiding spot was in plain sight. Dr. Walker's calculations were spot on. Sarah Rodriguez reported from the science station. The quantum distortions are much worse up close. These readings are, my God. Jessica turned to look at the holographic display. The tears in space-time were visible now, shimmering like heat mirages against the backdrop of stars. They pulsed with an otherworldly energy that made her skin crawl. Multiple Imperial energy collectors detected, Foster announced. Massive structures, at least 20 kilometers across. They're literally drinking the vacuum dry. Record everything, Jessica ordered. Every reading, every image. Earth needs. Captain. Rodriguez's voice cracked with alarm. New signature at bearing 187. It's a piece of space just vanished. The crew watched in horror as a sphere of nothingness expanded and contracted, swallowing a region of space the size of Earth's moon before collapsing back to a pinpoint. The Shadow sensors recorded it all. That wasn't supposed to happen for months, Jessica said, her mind racing. The deterioration is accelerating. Foster, get me a tight beam tow. Movement. Foster cut in. Imperial science vessel, bearing straight for the anomaly site. They must have detected it too. Jessica made a quick decision. Take us in closer. Let's see what they make of this. The Shadow glided silently toward the Imperial vessel, close enough to intercept their communications. The Imperial scientists' chatter was revealing. They were scared. These readings cannot be correct, one Imperial voice said, their translator making them sound artificially calm. The void itself appears to be unraveling. The humans, another voice replied. Their warning. Could they have been right? Silence. A third voice, heavy with authority. Such talk is treasonous. The Empire's technology is perfect. These anomalies are clearly natural phenomena. The voice cut off as another tear formed, this one close enough to make the Shadow's hull creak. Jessica watched as the Imperial vessel's shields flared against energies they were never designed to repel. Captain, a new voice cut through their comms, speaking perfect English. This is Dr. Nexus of the Imperial Science Academy. I know you're out there, human vessel. Your stealth technology is impressive, but I detected your gravitational shadow. We need to talk. Jessica exchanged looks with her crew. This wasn't part of the mission plan. Why should we trust you? She finally responded. Because I've been studying these tears for the past year in secret, Nexus replied. My findings match your Dr. Walker's predictions exactly, and I know others in the Empire who have seen the same signs. We've been silenced, but we're ready to help. Before Jessica could respond, Foster called out, multiple Imperial warships entering the sector. They're moving to surround the science vessel. Captain, Nexus's voice became urgent. They're coming for me. My transmission to Earth about the tears was detected. Please, I have data your people need to see. Jessica had seconds to decide. Her SEAL training screamed that this could be a trap, but her instincts told her differently. Sometimes, she knew, the most daring path was the only path. Lieutenant Foster, prepare for emergency quantum breach maneuver, she ordered. Dr. Nexus, stand by for immediate extraction. Let's show the Empire how primitive humans conduct a rescue operation. The Shadow's engines hummed to life as Jessica Brooks prepared to turn a simple reconnaissance mission into something that would change the course of the coming war. Imperial High Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Empire's flagship Eternal Dominion, watching Earth's pitiful defense fleet through enhanced quantum imaging. His orders were simple. Contain the humans and their dangerous ideas before they sparked a panic across the galaxy. Primitive vessels, he sneered, noting their smaller size and apparent lack of advanced shielding. These humans think they can challenge the Empire with such toys. My lord, his tactical officer interrupted, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from their fleet. They appear to be fragmenting. Vexthor's eyes widened as the human ships seemed to multiply, splitting into perfect copies that scattered in different directions. Impossible. Their technology level couldn't possibly. Multiple impacts. The bridge rocked violently. Where there had been empty space, human vessels suddenly appeared, their quantum mimetic hulls dropping their stealth camouflage at point-blank range. On the bridge of the U.S. Artemis, Major Tom Harrison watched his plan unfold. Status report on the holographic fleet. Imperial forces are engaging our decoys, sir, Lieutenant Emma Roberts reported, suppressing a smile. They're wasting ammunition on quantum mirages while our real ships move into position. Harrison nodded. The Empire had expected primitive kinetic weapons and basic energy shields. Instead, they were facing technology specifically designed to exploit their over-reliance on quantum scanning systems. Sir, Roberts called out. The shadow is emerging from FTL with the Imperial defector. They got half the Empire's rapid response fleet on their tail. Harrison's jaw tightened. Captain Brooks and Dr. Nexus were carrying vital data about the tiers in spacetime. They had to reach Earth. Launch Operation Chaff, he ordered. Let's show them why you don't underestimate human ingenuity. Across Earth's orbital plane, seemingly dormant satellites suddenly activated. Each one released thousands of tiny mirrors, creating a cloud of reflective particles that played havoc with Imperial targeting systems. Artemis actual to all ships, Harrison broadcast. Execute attack pattern Delta. Remember, we don't need to destroy them. We just need to prove we can't be ignored. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. Smaller ships darted between Imperial cruisers, their apparent primitiveness masking sophisticated electronic warfare suites. Larger vessels launched what appeared to be simple missiles, until they split apart mid-flight, each fragment containing a payload of quantum disruptors that forced Imperial ships to drop their shields or risk quantum entanglement cascade failures. On the Eternal Dominion, Vexthor watched in growing horror as his supposedly superior force was systematically outmaneuvered by vessels that shouldn't have been able to scratch their paint. My lord, his science officer called out, we're detecting a massive energy spike from the third planet's moon. Harrison allowed himself a grim smile as humanity's true surprise was revealed. Activate the Armstrong Array. The lunar surface seemed to ripple as hundreds of hidden panels opened, revealing a massive installation that the Empire's scans had somehow missed. Energy coursed through the array, and a targeted quantum pulse shot out, precisely calculated to interact with the growing tiers in spacetime. The effect was immediate and devastating. A controlled rift opened directly in the path of the Imperial pursuit fleet, forcing them to break off their chase of the shadow or risk being torn apart by the very quantum instabilities they'd refused to acknowledge. The shadow is clear, Roberts reported. They're making for the atmosphere. Imperial forces are withdrawing to minimum safe distance from the rift. Harrison opened a channel to the Imperial flagship. High Commander, consider this a demonstration. We understand quantum mechanics better than you thought. The tiers in spacetime are real, and they're getting worse. The next time we create a controlled rift, it might not be so controlled. Vexthor's response was silent, but the Imperial fleet's retreat spoke volumes. They'd expected to find primitives playing with technology they didn't understand. Instead, they'd found humans had been preparing for this confrontation, developing weapons and defenses specifically designed to counter Imperial advantages. Get me a secure line to the UN Security Council, Harrison ordered. They need to know the Empire's containment action failed. And that means they'll be back, with something bigger. The battle was over, but Harrison knew the war was just beginning. And somewhere out there, the quantum tiers were spreading, a threat greater than either side's weapons. Dr. Nexus had never seen the inside of a human facility before. The Cheyenne Mountain complex, with its reinforced walls and labyrinthine corridors, felt appropriately secure for what they were about to attempt. Your quantum isolation chamber is surprisingly sophisticated, he admitted, watching Dr. Amanda Walker calibrate the equipment. His silver-scaled hands moved across the human interfaces with practiced ease, thanks to their hasty adaptations. "Primitive doesn't mean stupid," Amanda replied, not looking up from her work. "We've had decades to study the Empire's technology while you ignored us. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage." Their quantum-encrypted transmission was ready. Across the galaxy, thousands of Imperial scientists would receive their data packet, disguised as routine system updates. The evidence of the space-time tiers, impossible to deny, would reach those most qualified to understand it. "You realize," Nexus said quietly, "this is treason against the Empire, if we're caught." "We're already caught," Captain Jessica Brooks interrupted, entering the chamber. Her uniform still showed scorch marks from their recent escape. Imperial infiltrators just tried to breach the perimeter. Fortunately, they still haven't figured out that our primitive security systems are specifically designed to counter their tech. Amanda activated the quantum transmitter. "Then we'd better make this count. Dr. Nexus, begin your broadcast." The Imperial scientist stepped forward, his phosphorescent eyes glowing with determination. "To my fellow servants of the Empire, I am Nexus, senior researcher of quantum mechanics at the Imperial Academy. What I'm about to share will be labeled as treason, but physics doesn't care about political loyalty." As Nexus spoke, Amanda watched the transmission logs. One by one, quantum receivers across Imperial space began accepting their data packet. The truth was spreading. "Multiple incoming transmissions," Jessica reported, monitoring the security feeds. "Looks like your message struck a nerve, Doctor." The responses flooded in, encrypted with codes that shouldn't have existed outside the Empire's highest echelons. Imperial scientists, engineers, and even military officers, all confirming they'd seen similar evidence, all silenced by the bureaucracy. "This is Admiral Call of the Third Fleet," one message read. "My science officers have been reporting anomalous readings for months. High Command dismisses them as equipment malfunctions. We're with you." "Research Station Gamma 9, another declared. "We've lost 3 automated outposts to these malfunctions. Sending our data now." Amanda's hands flew across the controls, correlating the new information. "It's worse than we thought. The tiers aren't just spreading. They're becoming self-sustaining. The Empire's energy extraction created a cascade effect that's continuing even in areas where they've scaled back operations." "Incoming priority message," Jessica announced. Text only, heavily encrypted. It's from the Imperial Palace." The message was brief. "The young Emperor sees. The old guard blinds. Expect resistance. Prepare evidence for full Imperial Court presentation. You have allies in the highest places." The young Emperor, Nexus breathed, his scales shifting color in shock. The hair apparent. "He believes us." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Jessica's comm crackled. Multiple Imperial warships just quantum jumped into the system. Energy signatures matched the Imperial Guard. The old Guard's personal army. "They're trying to stop the transmission," Nexus realized. But they're too late. The data is already spreading. Amanda's console chimed. New messages were pouring in, not just from Imperial sources now, but from every spacefaring race that had suffered under the Empire's energy monopoly. Each message brought more data, more confirmation, more allies. "They thought they could contain this," Jessica said, checking her weapons. "They thought Earth was alone." "Earth was never the real threat," Amanda replied, watching the network of allies grow across the galactic map. "The truth was. And now, Nexus finished, the Empire faces an enemy it can't intimidate, can't bribe, and can't deny. Reality itself." Outside, sirens wailed as defense forces mobilized to meet the Imperial Guard. But in the quantum isolation chamber, 3 unlikely allies, human, Imperial, and truth, prepared to fight a battle that would determine not just the fate of Earth or the Empire, but of space-time itself. The revolution wasn't just beginning. It had already won. The Empire just didn't know it yet. The imperial capital world of Nova Imperium gleamed like a jewel, its massive energy collectors casting mile-long shadows across the planetary surface. High Commander Vexthor stood before the Imperial Council, his voice thundering through the marble chamber. These human provocateurs and their traitorous allies must be silenced. Our energy extraction systems are the foundation of imperial power. To even suggest they're dangerous is. The chamber's quantum displays suddenly flickered. In the sky above, reality shuddered. At Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Amanda Walker watched through quantum imaging satellites as space itself began to tear. "My God," she whispered. "It's happening now." Major Tom Harrison burst into the command center. "Doctor, we're picking up massive distortions around Nova Imperium. Please tell me that's not what I think it is." "The Empire's capital world," Amanda confirmed, her fingers flying across holographic displays. Their largest energy extraction network created a cascade failure. The space-time tiers are converging. On Nova Imperium, panic erupted as the sky seemed to split open. Imperial ships tried to flee, their advanced drives only accelerating the breakdown of local spacetime. The quantum collectors, the Empire's pride and source of power, began to collapse in on themselves. "All Imperial vessels, this is Major Tom Harrison of Earth Defense. Harrison broadcast on all frequencies. Your drives are making it worse. Cut power immediately and stand by for emergency jump coordinates." "How dare you order?" Vexthor began. "Shut up and listen." Dr. Nexus cut in, his voice carrying the weight of his imperial credentials. "The humans predicted this. They know how to minimize the damage. Every second you waste on pride costs more lives." Above the capital, the tiers widened. Buildings began to stretch and distort as fundamental forces warped. The screams of millions carried across emergency channels. "Amanda," Harrison turned to her, "please tell me we have a plan." She nodded grimly. "The Armstrong Array. We can't stop the tier, but we might be able to contain it. Captain Brooks. Shadow is in position." Jessica's voice crackled through quantum-encrypted comms, ready to coordinate with any Imperial ships that want to live through this. The next few minutes were chaos. The Shadow, joined by a growing fleet of Imperial vessels, whose captains valued survival over pride, moved into formation. On Earth's moon, the Armstrong Array hummed to life, its energy building to levels that made Imperial sensors scream warnings. "All ships in position," Jessica reported. "Ready on your mark." Amanda took a deep breath. Initiating quantum containment pulse in 3, 2, 1. The Armstrong Array fired, its beam striking the tier's edge. Space itself groaned as human and Imperial ships projected carefully calibrated energy fields, creating a containment barrier around the rupture. "It's working," Nexus called out. "The tier's expansion is slowing." But victory came at a terrible price. On Nova Imperium's surface, entire districts had already been consumed by the quantum anomaly. The Empire's mighty capital, symbol of their absolute power, was partially erased from existence. In the Imperial Council chamber, now emergency relocated to an orbital platform, the old guard watched in stunned silence as human ships coordinated the evacuation of their citizens. "Status report," Harrison demanded. "Containment holding at 68%, Amanda replied. "We've lost most of the central district, but the residential sectors can still be saved. Captain Brooks is coordinating with Admiral Catal's evacuation fleet. The Empire's primary energy collection network is gone," Nexus added, a mix of relief and grief in his voice, along with most of their central bureaucracy. Harrison's tactical display showed hundreds of Imperial ships now following Earth's emergency protocols, their centuries of arrogance broken by the sight of their capital's destruction. "Incoming transmission," Amanda announced. It's the young Emperor." The message was brief but historic. Earth was right. The old guard is relieved of duty. Save our people. Save what you can. The Empire will remember who stood with us in our darkest hour. As rescue operations continued, Amanda looked at the containment readings with tired eyes. They'd prevented total disaster, but the cost had been catastrophic. The Empire's power was broken, not by human weapons, but by their own refusal to face reality. "Well," Harrison said quietly, "they finally listened." "Yes," Amanda replied, watching Imperial ships follow human directions without question. "I just hope they learned enough to help us face what comes next." Because the tears were still spreading across the galaxy. Nova Imperium was just the beginning. The combined human Imperial war room inside Cheyenne Mountain hummed with tension. Holograms showed the spreading network of quantum tiers across the galaxy, each one a potential Nova Imperium waiting to happen. Dr. Amanda Walker stood before the assembled leaders, human and Imperial alike. The young Emperor himself attended via quantum projection, his ceremonial robes replaced by practical military dress. "The collapse is accelerating," Amanda explained, highlighting critical points in the holographic display. "We have 48 hours before the tiers reach critical mass. After that, even a coordinated shutdown won't save us." "The shutdown sequence must be perfect," Dr. Nexus added, his scales dulled with exhaustion. "One mistake, one collector out of sync, and will trigger the very cascade we're trying to prevent." Major Tom Harrison stepped forward. "That's where Captain Brooks and the Shadow come in." Jessica Brooks activated her own tactical display. "My team will lead a strike force to the central control nexus. It's the only place we can initiate a synchronized shutdown of all remaining collectors. The problem is," she paused, meeting each person's eyes, "it's in the heart of Old Guard territory." The young Emperor's projection nodded grimly. "The Old Guard controls 30% of our remaining collectors. They refuse to acknowledge the crisis, claiming the loss of Nova Imperium was a human weapon test. They'll resist any shutdown attempt. Which is why we're not asking permission," Harrison said. "Captain Brooks will lead a joint human-Imperial strike team. Dr. Walker and Dr. Nexus have developed a shutdown sequence that can't be overridden once initiated." Amanda brought up the technical specifications. "We've mapped the quantum resonance patterns. Each collector must be deactivated in precise order, like deconstructing a house of cards in reverse. One wrong move, and reality unravels." Nexus finished. "The sequence must be initiated from the central control nexus, then propagate through the network within a 15-second window." The young Emperor's image flickered. "The Old Guard has activated the Nexus's quantum barriers. They're impenetrable." Jessica allowed herself a small smile. "Impenetrable to Imperial tech, maybe. But humans, we've got a few tricks they haven't seen yet." The plan unfolded across tactical displays. The Shadow, accompanied by loyal Imperial ships, would approach under cover of a manufactured quantum storm. While the main fleet engaged Old Guard forces, Brooks' strike team would use Earth's quantum mimetic technology to slip through the barriers. "We'll have exactly 10 minutes, Amanda explained, "from breaching the Nexus to initiating the shutdown. After that, the quantum fluctuations will be too severe for any ship to survive." "A suicide mission," the young Emperor said quietly. "No," Jessica corrected, her voice hard. "A necessary one." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Amanda and Nexus worked frantically to perfect the shutdown sequence, while Harrison coordinated with Imperial fleet commanders. The Shadow's crew ran combat drills with their new Imperial team members, teaching them to work with human tech. Just before launch, Amanda caught Jessica alone in the Shadow's quantum lab. "The calculations are done," Amanda said, handing over a quantum crystal. "Once you reach the control center, this will do the rest." "But Jessica," she hesitated, "the shutdown will create a quantum backwash. Everyone in the Nexus, when it hits, will be quantum shifted out of normal spacetime." Jessica finished. "I know. The crew knows. We all volunteered. There might be another way." "There isn't," Jessica said gently. "Sometimes the greatest victories require the ultimate sacrifice. Just make it count, okay?" The launch countdown began. Across the galaxy, loyal Imperial ships moved into position. The old guard's propaganda channels blared warnings about human treachery, even as more tiers appeared in their own territory. On the Shadows Bridge, Jessica Brooks strapped into the command chair. Her crew, human and Imperial alike, manned their stations with grim determination. The quantum crystal pulsed in its sealed container, humanity's last hope for stopping the collapse. "Shadow actual to all ships," she broadcast. "The shutdown sequence is our only chance to save our galaxy. Some of us won't make it back. But today we prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our willingness to sacrifice everything to save everyone, even those who dismissed us as primitives." She took one last look at Earth through the view screen. For Earth, for the Empire, for every species that calls this galaxy home. Operation Final Gambit is go. The shadow vanished into quantum space, carrying with it the fate of reality itself. 3 months after Operation Final Gambit, Dr. Amanda Walker stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The chamber, built in the ruins of Nova Imperium, incorporated architecture from every spacefaring race. At its center, a quantum memorial showed the names of the Shadow's crew, eternally cycling through a holographic display. "The quantum tiers have stabilized," Amanda reported, her voice carrying to representatives of 100 species. "The shutdown sequence worked exactly as planned. However, the scars in spacetime will remain for millennia, a reminder of how close we came to total collapse." The young emperor, now simply the emperor, stood. Gone were the elaborate robes of the old imperial court, replaced by a simple uniform that matched those of his people. And what of the Shadow's crew? Of Captain Brooks? Amanda's throat tightened. The quantum backwash from the shutdown created what we're calling a pocket universe. Our best sensors detect life signs. They're alive, but in a realm we can't reach. Yet. Dr. Walker understates our progress. Dr. Nexus interrupted, his scales shimmering with cautious optimism. "Our joint human imperial quantum physics team has made breakthrough after breakthrough studying the pocket universe. Captain Brooks and her crew may be lost now, but thanks to their sacrifice, we have time to find a way to bring them home." In the 3 months since the shutdown, the galaxy had transformed. The old guard's final attempt to stop the shadow had failed spectacularly when their own ship's crews mutinied, choosing survival over blind loyalty. The Empire's absolute authority had been replaced by the Galactic Council, where every spacefaring race had a voice. "The humans have proposed a new initiative," the Emperor announced. "One that I fully support." Dr. Walker. Amanda activated the chamber's main display. "We call it the Warden Protocol. The quantum scars left by the tiers can be used as early warning systems. By monitoring them, we can detect similar threats before they become critical. But it requires cooperation on a scale never before achieved in our galaxy." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Amanda watched as species that had once cowered under imperial rule now debated as equals. The Empire's fall had created something unprecedented. True galactic cooperation. "There's more," she continued once the chamber quieted. "The quantum shutdown didn't just save us from collapse. It taught us something profound about spacetime itself." Dr. Nexus, the Imperial scientist, stepped forward. "The universe, we've discovered, is far more resilient than we imagined. But it requires balance. The Empire's mistake wasn't just arrogance. It was believing we could take without consequence. The humans understood something we'd forgotten: the importance of sustainability." Screens around the chamber showed the new energy collection systems being built. Unlike the Empire's massive harvesters, these were smaller, designed to work with spacetime's natural rhythms rather than against them. Human insight combined with Imperial technology had created something revolutionary. "We propose," Amanda said, "that Earth be designated as the headquarters for the new Galactic Warden Force. Not because we're the most advanced, but because we've proven we have the perspective needed to spot problems others might miss." The Emperor smiled. The motion is carried. Earth will lead the Wardens, with all council races contributing knowledge and resources. Let the humans teach us what we forgot, how to look at the universe with fresh eyes. As the council session ended, Amanda walked to the quantum memorial. Jessica's face appeared in the holographic display, forever frozen in that last moment of determination before the shadow breached the control nexus. "We'll find a way," Nexus said, joining her. "However long it takes. The pocket universe is stable. They can wait." "They sacrificed everything to save people who had dismissed them as primitives," Amanda replied. "That's humanity's real strength. Not our technology, not our tactics, but our ability to do what's right, even when it costs us everything." The memorial shifted, showing the combined human imperial crew of the Shadow. Below their images, words in every galactic language scrolled past. They saved reality itself. Outside the council chamber, the quantum scars in space shimmered like aurora, a constant reminder of both catastrophe and its salvation. The Empire had fallen, but something better had risen in its place, and somewhere in their pocket universe, the crew of the Shadow waited, knowing they had changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had delivered their warning. The galaxy had ignored it. But in the end, humans had done what they always did, found a way to save everyone, even those who had dismissed them. The primitives had become the protectors, the wardens of a galaxy that would never underestimate them again.